Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Each week, we address issues of timely and timeless concern with newsmakers and the journalists who report on them, with artists, writers, scientists, educators, social scientists, government leaders. We speak to each one to one. I'm delighted to welcome athlete par excellence, Wendy Hilliard, to the program today. The former president of Billie Jean King's Women's Sports Foundation, Wendy was the first African American to compete for the United States rhythmic gymnastics team. She's a sports analyst and choreographer and mentors young athletes through her schools and programs. She's lived her dream and wants to help young people in the city achieve theirs. Welcome.
Thank you.
Wendy, you grew up in Detroit. Tell us something about your upbringing and how you got into gymnastics.
Well, I have 4 sisters, and we lived right in the city in Detroit. I attended public school there. I started gymnastics mainly because I think I saw it on the TV during the Olympics at one point, but there really wasn't a lot of gymnastics in the city of Detroit. There were some in the suburbs. But my mother was very helpful and very tenacious to find programs, and I went out to the suburbs to start gymnastics, but eventually the City of Detroit Recreation Department hired 4 coaches from the former Soviet Union, from Ukraine. And they brought the program to the city, and then the Recreation Department developed a team, Detroit Metro Gymnast, and we competed in rhythmic gymnastics. One of my team members, Michelle, made 2 Olympic teams, so we were able to bring really high quality gymnastics to Detroit, and that's where I trained most of my career.
So when you got on that Metro team, how old were you at that time?
I was in high school by this time. I started gymnastics when I was around 11 or 12. I was an athlete. I did swimming, things like that. My mother had to decide, you have to pick one sport, and I loved gymnastics. And my coach, Zina Marinoff, Dr. Zina Marinoff, she was a specialist in rhythmic gymnastics, and it wasn't a very popular sport. It was an Olympic sport at the time, but she came in and she brought her really tough training that she had, and she taught us all, and that's how I got into rhythmic gymnastics.
Tell us about rhythmic gymnastics and how it differs from the gymnastics we're used to seeing with the pommel horse and the balance beam.
Well, rhythmic gymnastics, you use hand apparatus. Gymnastics is movement with or on equipment, so in artistic gymnastics is the more familiar kind. You work on the balance beam or on the uneven bars. In rhythmic gymnastics, you work with hand apparatus, so we have a hoop, a ball, a ribbon, a hoop, of clubs. And what you do is you perform all your routines to music. So it's done on the floor exercise mat that's familiar to artistic gymnastics. But the key is hand-eye coordination, speed, takes a lot of practice like all of these artistic sports do. And it's basically using your body with the apparatus as opposed to on the apparatus.
When I was watching you perform and one of your students, it looks like a combination of gymnastics and dance. Is that accurate?
It's accurate. We need the dance for a lot of our training. We do a lot of ballet training, a lot of stretching, but it's really gymnastics, and it's kind of interesting. Dancers have a harder time of working with a piece of apparatus, which is really why it is sport. It's really challenging to release it up in the air, do your moves, and then catch it. So even though dance is very important to our background, it's really the sport and the hand-eye coordination that makes it an Olympic sport.
Now, you were in high school when you got into it seriously. With the other form of gymnastics, young people start much earlier, right?
They tend to. In rhythmic gymnastics, it started to change as a sport. Because rhythmic gymnastics was new, they took a lot of former artistic gymnastics. I did the artistic gymnastics, the floor and the beam and things like that, and I switched over. So because the sport was so new, a lot of us on the national team at that time were former gymnasts, and we switched over. But for most sports, gymnastics, you do tend to start a little younger, especially nowadays.
So what was a typical day like for you when you were pursuing the sport in a competitive way?
A lot of hours. I would start in the morning and I'd go running in the park nearby. My father would wake me up with orange juice, which I really didn't like to run every morning, but I had to do my cardio training. And then I would probably go practice in the morning for 2 or 3 hours. Depending on my age, I would go to school for another 3, 4, 5 hours, and then I would have training again in the afternoon for another 3 or 4 hours. So it was a pretty full day.
And you competed in national competitions?
National competitions and international competitions.
Okay.
I was the first black to make the national team in rhythmic gymnastics, and so I competed in about 15 foreign countries and 3 world championships. I spent a lot of time training overseas. My coach Zina actually taught me to speak Russian, and I used that in practice and when we traveled. So I studied that, but I trained in Bulgaria and Poland to train with the best gymnasts in the world.
what do you consider the high point of your career as a competitor?
Oh, that's a very good question. I made the Olympic trials in 1984. Rhythmic gymnastics was introduced as an Olympic sport in 1984, so it was very exciting for us to make the trials. I didn't make that Olympic team, but it was really exciting to bring a new sport. The Olympics were held in Los Angeles, and then probably the next—
That was the first year?
The first year for rhythmic gymnastics. And then I would probably say the other world championships. Competing in world championships is where it's very exciting because all the best gymnasts from around the world, and it takes a lot of heart, but I had a lot of ups and downs, but I would say probably the Olympic trials and world championships.
And what was the most prestigious medal that you won?
Well, I won international medals. It was a very interesting time when I was competing, because in Europe they really appreciated my style. I had a little bit tougher time. Being the only black in the U.S. was much tougher because we had what we called a group routine where you'd have 5 or 6 gymnasts compete together, and it was the idea to look synchronized, and some of the coaches didn't think that I fit in well enough. So I had a lot of battles I had to fight in the U.S. So internationally I won international gold medals, and that was very exciting.
Now, why didn't they think you fit in? Was it difference in body type, differences in way of movement, or what?
It was mainly because I would stand out. And a lot of the coaches, besides my coach, but a lot of the other coaches were from Eastern Europe, and they were used to being able to choose whoever they wanted to. If they wanted to have 6 blonde girls on the team, they could do that. But when they came to America, they realized that you couldn't choose people because of how they looked. And I did stand out. There is no doubt about it. But I had to fight my way. I had to write USA Gymnastics one time. They left me off the team. And they had some girls that were ranked lower than I was at nationals, and they had to switch it around. So I had to learn pretty early that you had to stand up for your rights.
Are there many black girls pursuing rhythmic gymnastics? Were there, well, obviously not then.
Right.
But how about now?
It is not growing as much as I would like to, which is one of the reasons I started my gymnastics foundation. There are a few gymnasts on the national team. I have one of those girls. One of my top athletes is on the junior national team, but there have not been as many as I would have liked. It's a really tough sport, as you have to start very young. It tends to be very expensive because a lot of the training is constant and requires a lot of travel. So that's really one of the reasons I started the foundation, because I really believe that this sport is great for all, but you have to have access to it.
And you mentioned one of your pupils. She's a very special pupil, and we're going to watch a video of her right now.
My name is Alexis. I am 11 years old, and I live in Harlem, New York City. I love rhythmic gymnastics.
In rhythmic gymnastics, you work with hand apparatus, with the ribbon, with the rope, and it's rhythmic because, 1, you have to perform it to music. 2, the rhythm of actually how the apparatus goes makes it work you have to have a good partnership.
Practice 20 to 25 hours a week.
Alexis, for one, is a very determined young woman. I can tell in her heart she really loves doing rhythmic gymnastics. And for people to excel in sport, that really has to be the underlying motive.
I got up at 6:30 in the morning. Then I took the train for 2 hours. Then I took the bus at Flatbush Avenue for 30 minutes. Then I came here at gymnastics to work out for 4 hours.
This year was very important as far as Alexis showing more courage in both her practice and her competitions. To get here, she has to travel 2.5 hours one way, and she gets home very, very late, and she still has to do her schoolwork and turn around and get up for school.
It takes courage to get out on the floor at a competition, because you can't just go on the floor and just stand there. You have to represent your team.
You have to walk out on the mat all by yourself in front of 4, 6, or more judges that are going to sit down and mark your routine however you do it. There are no do-overs, you can't go back, there's not a timeout.
In Junior Olympics, I placed 2nd place. It was a very big accomplishment because in the year before that, I placed 12th.
There are many more times, especially in gymnastics, when you think you did better, but the other girl got a good score or a higher score. That happens a lot. And it's a really good life lesson because sometimes it just does happen that way. and you have to still want to go out there and do your best. Alexis shows courage really in how she practices on a day-to-day basis. And the rewards you get from courage, which really come from, you know, being well practiced, well rehearsed, determination to do things well, is that you get more courage.
You never give up. You never just go one day and say you can't do it the next day.
So how did Alexis Page come to you?
It's a very interesting story. My husband, Bobby Mensah, was working with her mother, Pam Fair, and he had noticed her, I think, at a picnic or something, doing a lot of cartwheels, and noticed she was very flexible. And he told Pam, he said, you should put her in my wife's program. She does gymnastics. So it took a little while, but eventually Alexis came to our program in Harlem and started with our free program. One of my coaches identified her talent, as I did, and she became one of the members of our competitive team. And she worked very, very hard, but it's very interesting. She was 7 years old when she started with us.
Wow. And she's 14 now.
And she's 14 now. So it's been quite a development, and she's just blossomed into a really wonderful gymnast. She's always had a really great work ethic, and now she's actually developed the kind of determination that you need to be on the national, international level. But it took many years, and I have to credit her mother to really working so hard to get her to practice.
What are you looking for in somebody who's 7 years old that lets you know that they've got potential?
Well, first, it's the natural potential that they may have. In rhythmic gymnastics, flexibility is very important, strength is very important, and coordination. When you're that young, you also have to really love what you're doing. Sports like gymnastics require hours and hours of practice, so you have to really enjoy what you're doing. And she also was a very good listener. Alexis is also a very good student. She's a straight-A student. So to be able to be coachable, to take direction, and not to be too sensitive, to be able to work really hard on your own, these are all the skills that's very good for gymnasts to have, to be able to work consistently, do it over and over again. But when you're looking at young people, they want to love the sport, they want to have some natural talent, but to be honest with you, the most thing is to be able to work hard.
Yeah.
If you have a talented gymnast that doesn't work hard, or you have someone who's not so talented who works hard, the one who works hard is always going to score higher.
In many areas, it's the drive.
It's the drive.
We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with more with Wendy Hilliard.
市政公约是通关纽约市的宪法，目前修宪委员会正在修订新的市政公约，欢迎各界广泛参与。详情请登录网站 nyc.gov/charter 或拨打电话311。
The city charter is the
Constitution of the 5 boroughs.
Now the Charter Revision Commission
is reviewing our government rulebook.
Help decide the future of your city.
To learn how,
visit nyc.gov/charter or call 311.
O Estatuto da Cidade é a Constituição das 5 regiões de Nova York. Agora, a Comissão Especial de Revisão está modificando o Estatuto. Ajude a decidir o futuro de Nova York. Para saber mais, visite nyc.gov/charter ou ligue para 311.
Welcome back to One to One. I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Wendy Hilliard, founder and director of the Wendy Hilliard Foundation here in New York. What do you say to those who ridicule rhythmic gymnastics and say it's not a real sport? Because I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh, we've heard that. I spent a lot of years being a national spokesperson to introduce people. I think it's just because they don't understand it. Rhythmic gymnastics is so challenging. I've been traveling all over the world. I'll never forget, I was at the Olympic Training Center, and we used to have contests with the boxers there with jump ropes, who could do the most jump ropes fast. But people that understand sport and understand that you have to coordinate everything together, the idea of the rhythmic gymnast is to make it look easy, so that's what people see. But the key is that it's extremely difficult. You have to have so many different skills all put together, and the key is you have to do it when it matters. Not many people can only take a minute and a half routine and make it work without any do-overs.
Now, Alexis, has she competed in state and national competitions?
Yes, Alexis has competed in state, national. She made the junior national team last year, so she's one of our top athletes in the country, and she's competed internationally. My foundation has sponsored many of her international trips. She went to Spain this spring. She's been to Portugal and Cuba, so it's been really wonderful for her to be able to see the world with her rhythmic gymnastics, but she's worked really, really hard to do so.
Now, for somebody to excel in this, it really also takes parents who are very supportive. And you saw in the video, I guess that was her mother, you
Yes,
know,
yes.
getting her to the center.
It's really extreme that you have to have, first, the commitment to your child, because in sports like gymnastics, they tend to be younger when they're involved, so you have to really be there to support them. Pam Fair, Alexis's mother, has really helped out because the transportation where she trains out in Brooklyn with Lucy Kersnerman, her coach, is a 2.5-hour ride one way, so it's a lot of dedication on her part.
Wow, where is that in Brooklyn?
It's way out Flatbush. It's out at Aviator Sports and Recreation, and it's out in Floyd Bennett Field, which is a wonderful facility, but it's very far from Harlem. And the challenge that we had is that she got to the point where she needed to train 5 and 6 days a week.
Right.
We didn't have the facilities here in Harlem, and hopefully that will change, because the key is, it's great if you can have that one athlete and parent that's so dedicated, but most people don't have that opportunity, so you want to be able to have a facility where a lot of people can train, where it's easily to walk to or get to by transportation.
Right. So what's next for her? I mean, what plans do you have for her training or for her athletic career?
Well, her goal is to go for the 2012 Olympic team. This year they're having the Youth Olympics, and she's one of the few gymnasts that may qualify for that. We'll find out very shortly. But I think for her, it's just to develop the international level of competition. It's one thing to make it to the national level, but once you get on the international level, you have to really make a name for yourself. You have to be consistent, and you have to do well in that competition. But she really has the mindset, in which parents have to understand that. You can have all the talent you have in your body, but to succeed on the international level, you have to have a very strong mental capability for competition and hard work, and she has that. So if she keeps her training as she's doing and competing well, she'll do well.
What are the countries that have the most competitive teams?
I would say the top teams would be Russia, Bulgaria, all the other former Soviet countries, Kazakhstan, things like that, Belarus. And some of the, you know, China has some very good gymnasts. It's really an Eastern European-based sport is where the development came, but because everything is so global now, a lot of the coaches are spread out all over the world.
Right.
But I would have to say the United States is working very hard. She's really made Alexis herself has actually made a great statement in the international competition, but I would say the former Eastern European countries would be the top to beat.
Does Alexis remind you of yourself at that age?
Oh, she really does. It was really exciting that I just had a chance to talk with her. And it was very interesting because I was concerned a little bit because she's really the only black on the junior national team. And I was concerned that she was traveling the world and whether she'd feel isolated. But she had that great attitude. It's what she wants to do. She says, Wendy, I'm really happy in what I'm doing. I'm excited to achieve something. And it felt really special for me to sit down because she's one of the few people in the world that has gone through what I went through.
Right, right. So tell me about the program, the Wendy Hilliard Foundation, and what you do.
Well, the Wendy Hilliard Foundation, we started back in 1996, and we provide free and low-cost gymnastics for inner-city youth. Primarily, we have our free programs that we either do on Saturdays, so we've done camps over the summertime. We support cheer teams, the Riverbank cheer team. We also do a lot of health and nutrition for kids because it's really important. In our programs now, we have a reading component and a health component along with the gymnastics.
Oh, really?
To teach young people about how it is to take care of their body, but also to understand that sports is really physical education. So when you combine that with reading, you have to understand what we teach kids. We've had 10,000 children go through our program.
Really?
And we serve ages 3 to 18. And it's really important that you teach them how to work hard. You know, gymnastics is hard, so to get a cartwheel, you've got to do it over and over again. So we try and teach them the process to take steps as you go to your small goals. And that's really the key. But I have some great teachers. It's one of the only programs like it in the city and in the country, actually, where we provide such high-quality gymnastics for the kids.
Now, are these classes free, or are there fees for some, or how does that work?
There are fees for some. Mainly, we try to have a registration fee because the key is that we want it to be low cost, but we want people to be dedicated to the program. We're very strict. If you miss 3 classes, the next person goes on. We have a huge waiting list for our program. So the fact that it's low cost or free, registration fee doesn't mean that it's not a quality program. The key is that we have to make sure people are invested in the program.
Right.
So we charge a little fee. You get your T-shirt. It's very disciplined. I use the same training that my coaches gave me. But the key is that people have to understand that they have to be dedicated. You finish a semester, and then we always have a beautiful show, which we call the gala. We just finished the gala. Alexis performed. We had Rayshine Harris, who's an 11-time world champion in tumbling. So we have a lot of Olympic athletes that come by to perform for the kids to inspire them. So it's a really wonderful experience. We had, real quickly, our gymnasts performed at Lincoln Center this year.
Oh,
For the
really?
Little Orchestra Society. So I had 20 kids who were new to the program in September. In April, they were on the stage of Lincoln Center. They did 3 shows and they were fabulous. We worked really hard, but the key is to be able to use your gymnastic skills to help you in life.
And who supports your program financially?
Well, we have a lot of different funders. We have city funders. We have the city council persons that support our program. We have state funding. We have some individual funding. It's really a mix. As a nonprofit, as most of them know, it's been a tough time for everyone, especially with the public funding. But we've been able to really diversify our funding and get it from different sources.
And can any kid take part in your program?
Yes, yes, we can. It's really based on if you follow directions, you sign up early, and you stay in the program. It's something to take really seriously. Gymnastics for any level, whether it's a beginner or a 3-year-old or someone with Alexis's level, is to really learn the fun about working with your body. So anyone can join our program.
Now, you went to Wayne State University,
I did.
correct?
Yeah.
Now, were you still a gymnast when you were in college?
I was. I went to Wayne State, and then I finished at NYU. I graduated with honors.
Okay.
I moved to New York and finished my training here. And so I did. I had to do a lot of juggling. I was, taking 1 semester off to train in Bulgaria, to come back and do my test. It was very tough because rhythmic gymnastics is not a collegiate sport. But my parents were very adamant that I finish college and do it the best that I could, and that was true. But it took a lot of juggling.
And how old were you when you retired from the sport?
Well, I was in my 20s when I retired.
Okay.
I went right and I started performing. I was here in New York. We started a gymnastics company called Anti-Gravity. Christopher Harrison started that, and so we did a lot of performing. It actually took me to Broadway, so I did a lot of television work and Broadway using my gymnastics.
Broadway?
Candide.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was in the cast of Candide, and it was very exciting. We had some other gymnasts there, but it was really nice to be able to use all my skills in New York. And that's what we have with the foundation. Even though we train gymnastics and it's a competitive sport, we're very closely tied to the performance aspect of New York City. We have one of our teachers, Anthony Bryant, who was a scholarship student out with the Lion King. So we really have that wonderful mix of art and sport.
Now, when you're looking at young people who are competing at the Olympics level, about what age range are you looking at?
Well, depending, I would say anywhere, there's a cap, so you usually have to be 15 or 16 to compete at the Senior Olympics. The Youth Olympics is for ages 13 and 14, which is why Alexis qualifies. But generally, anywhere between 16, 20, 24, depends on how tough you are to stick out that training.
Yeah. So are you looking, when you look at your students who come through your programs, are you looking for young people who have a shot at being competitive gymnasts, or are there other reasons you want them there, other things you want to expose them to?
I really want to expose them to the sport of gymnastics and really learning sport training. I use gymnastics. I love all the Olympic sports, but gymnastics is mine. And then you will see over the years if a talent comes through. I tell parents, even at 7, I wouldn't say Alexis would be the top gymnast. You can't really tell there. It takes years and years. It takes dedication. It takes to see how the child develops, both physically and mentally. But my main goal is to get kids fit, to get them to learn a new sport, to appreciate sport at a young age.
Are there health and fitness issues that you're concerned about? I know there's a high rate of diabetes in Black communities, and there's a high rate of asthma.
Yes. And I've seen that because we started our foundation 15 years ago, and the kids have just gotten bigger. That's, all of my gymnastics coaches, gymnasts tend to be on the shorter side, on the smaller stature. That's how gymnastics goes. And we found out that the kids are getting bigger and heavier at a younger age. And so that's why we incorporated the nutrition aspect into it, because we said you can't come to gymnastics with a bag of potato chips. It just won't work. We have to make sure that they understand the correlation between health and fitness and doing sport. But it is a big concern for us. And teaching young people a sport is very important because it helps them appreciate their body and what they can do.
So we've got a minute left. What's on your wish list?
My wish list is for a wonderful center in Harlem to do gymnastics 24/7. Besides serving young people, we had seniors. I did the program out at Aviator Sports. We had seniors doing gymnastics 3 days a week. Special needs gymnastics is great for that. We need a lot of programs. So I think if we have a space to do our gymnastics, we have the great coaches, and there are more than enough kids. That would be our big wish list.
Now you have 2 children, 2 sons, 5 and 7?
Yes.
Are they athletic?
They are. I would say my oldest one, Kennedy, is more artistic.
Okay.
He's in sports because both of his parents are athletes.
Right.
And my younger one, I think, is a little bit more athletic. But, you know, at age 5 and 7, it's hard to say. But it's good to expose your kids to sports, and we'll see.
Okay, great. Well, we'll be watching Alexis and hoping that we'll be hearing a lot more from her, and I'm sure more from you as you continue this wonderful program. We're out of time. I want to thank Wendy Hilliard for joining us. You can get more information on the foundation by going to wendyontheweb.org. For the City University of New York and One to One, I'm Sheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.